let's get started. Thank you so much. Welcome, dear all. Good evening to all those who are watching us in Tajikistan and to the rest who are watching us from different countries and who will be joining this webinar. Yeah, so good part of the day. And today we are again just so happy to welcome. Yes, Dr. Bruce Rubin, who delivered the webinar 2 weeks ago. And today he's going to talk about teaching models for conversation and critical thinking. I think this topic is amazing because for teachers who are non-native speakers, this is something challenging. And today, Dr. Rubin is going to share a very exciting and insightful, takeaways, and I hope that everybody will benefit from today's webinar. And for those of you who are not familiar with our speaker, let me just give some introduction. Mr. Bruce Rubin has taught English to international students and immigrants for over 30 years. He has conducted a wide range of training workshops for English language educators and is one of the authors of Inside Reading, a highly regarded academic English textbook series published by Oxford University Press. And Mr. Rubin lives in Southern California. His academic home is California State University, Fullerton, where he currently lectures in the arts and humanities while also teaching for the TESOL master's degree program. And once again, dear all, please join, take your time, and of course, after the presentation, you can ask your questions to Mr. Rubin. So, Dr. Rubin, our audience are watching us via Zoom and also Facebook. So let's get started. And yes, of course, we will give the time for questions and answers after your presentation. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Nasiba. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I hope I can live up to your expectations and make this an exciting workshop. But honestly, it doesn't have to be exciting. It has to be useful, I think. And I hope it really will be useful to everyone here. I have a few plans for tonight. I'll share my PowerPoint with you quickly, but I'm basically going to do a very quick overview of modals and what they mean and what they're all about. And we'll talk about some specific challenges for learning and for teaching modals. Yeah, it's a challenge to teach, whether you're a native speaker, teacher, or not. We all have challenges teaching modals. They're so common and they shift meanings and that they have so many important functions. And we'll be talking about that. We'll look at a few very common exercises that we train teachers to use here in the US. And at the end, we'll submit a lesson plan prompt to AI and see what kind of exercises AI can generate for teaching modals. Again, our goal is to focus a little bit more on modals for conversation and critical thinking. They'll virtually all apply. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I hope you can see it now.
Yes,
I'm
I
going to
can
start
see.
the slideshow. Okay, can you see? Great. Okay, so here we are on teaching modals for conversation and critical thinking. And again, my agenda, a brief overview of modals and some what I call prototype activities for conversation and critical thinking. I'm going to focus more on lower levels and intermediate levels tonight, but you'll see some activities that you can adapt for more advanced levels. And then AI will generate a lesson plan for us. And we're going to evaluate that lesson plan as it comes out on the screen. If we have time, though this may be another presentation, suggestions for additional activity creation. And then we'll talk about what the role of the teacher is in the AI world. But first, there's something I would like to ask you all. I really wish I had asked you 2 weeks ago, but I was so intent on being professional and businesslike, and I really would like to know, where are you from? Here's a map of Tajikistan. Where are you? Can you please tell me what city or what school you're in? I know some of you are on Facebook. You might not even be in Tajikistan, so I'm sorry about that, but I think most of you are. And I'd like to know, where are you? If you could tell me in the chat box, where are you, or what city you're in, and I'm going to try to locate it on this map here. See if I can find my chat box again. Oops. Okay, so I see Dushanbe. Okay, all right. There's Dushanbe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Dushanbe, Korog. Hmm. I don't see that one on the map, but I'll look for it later. Okay, Rushan, okay. All right, and I see one of you has mentioned that Mary is teaching in a secondary school. Any other school locations or levels that you might be teaching? Oh, Korog on the map. Thank you, Zero. Yes, I see it now. Got it. Okay, Dushanbe means uh, Monday. All right, very nice. Thank you. Okay, and I'd like to just ask you one more question. This is an icebreaker of sorts. One word that describes your teaching week so far. I know there it's Thursday evening. It's still Thursday. I'm sorry. Yeah, Thursday morning here. One word that describes your teaching week so far. Busy. Okay. I guess that's a combination of busy and interesting, exciting, incredible, busy. Yeah. I imagine you're all quite busy. And Zero mentioned to me that it was Ramadan, which I know I've had many Muslim students here, so I know what that's all about. And yeah, sometimes in the middle of the day they would get very hungry, but were very self-controlled and knew how to deal with it. My kids had Muslim friends who would come over and we'd have them over for dinner after the sunset, and it was a lot of fun actually. But okay, great week. Friday was perfect. Okay, excellent. So it sounds like you guys have had a pretty good week so far. Okay, so let's do a quick survey. This is called Teaching Modals for Conversation and Critical Thinking. This is the title of the webinar. For those of you who are not on Zoom, you're on Facebook, you might not be able to answer this in the poll itself, but you could just answer it on the chat box. And multiple answers are okay. You don't have to choose just one. Maybe two or three apply to you. And so here I'm just, we say fishing for knowledge about you and your experience with modals. Maybe some of you really don't have much experience teaching modals and don't know much about them. Maybe you've taught a few modals on occasion and you know a bit about them. Maybe you've taught a variety of modals and you feel reasonably knowledgeable about them. Or, or you've used modals in class as the focus of a conversation activity. Maybe you've used modals in class as the focus of a critical thinking activity. So, Zero, whenever you're ready, please launch the poll. Those of you who cannot take the poll, on Zoom, feel free to answer in the chat box. Thank you. I see it. Okay, I see one response from Facebook, 345. Okay, I see we may be getting a few latecomers tonight, perhaps due to Ramadan ending in a few minutes, but looks like we're pretty evenly split here. Two that say they don't have much experience, one has taught who has a little bit of experience, a couple who've taught a variety of modals, and then a couple who've used it for used modals for conversation, and one who's used modals for critical thinking. Okay, looks like six of six of answers, so we'll go ahead and move on there. Thank you very much for sharing that information. Okay, and a seventh. All right, very good. Okay, so I hope this will be helpful to most, if not all of you. Oh, we got one more. Zero, do you think I should, or Nasiba, should I wait another minute on this, or do you think we're okay?
I closed the poll, so I think that we can move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, there were the results there. All right, so here I'm just going to be the college professor for a few minutes. These are some of the things I discuss with future teachers here at my university. This is a little introduction. This again is kind of academic sounding, but modality centers on beliefs and attitudes regarding potentiality. We don't say that word very much, but potential for something to happen, possibility of something happening, probability of something happening. So you can see already with those words how it could be interesting for conversation or critical thinking. Uh, there are three broad categories of modals, and I'm sorry I couldn't get my PowerPoint to work perfectly this evening, but number one is the simplest, ability or tendency. I can play the guitar. I can play tennis. I can't speak Tajik or Russian. So that does tend to focus on can or can't, which is also a challenge in itself. Even for native speakers, sometimes I have to say to my own wife, did you say can or can't? But we'll talk about that a little bit. And then the next major category is social interaction. This includes many things, but especially giving advice or making and responding to requests or granting permission, like, may I go to the bathroom? Very formal in an American school. Yes, you may. I'm not even certain that they teach it with may anymore. Most people say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" Uh, when I was a boy, the word can could be ability or it could be asking for permission. But my teachers 60 years ago would say, can you go to the bathroom? I don't know. Can you? And then they would think that was very funny. And then I'd have to say, may I? And they'd say, yes, you may. So they were very strict about using may for permission. Today, we're not so strict. But we also use modals for logical probability, for making predictions, for making inferences. Uh, A equals B, B equals C. you can infer that A equals C, or A must equal C. There's your modal there, expressing levels of possibility or impossibility. Some learner challenges for modals include the fact that some languages, and I'm not sure about yours, do have modals in more of a verb form, and they might change for singular or plural. But English modals do not inflect for singular or plural. It's always he can, she can, they can. No change there. You don't have to add an S like you do for regular verbs. And then they're followed by the base form or the simple form. So he can go, he can play, he can be. So it's just a base form, and there's no infinitive. A common mistake might be he can to go tomorrow. No, because he can go tomorrow. The past tense is slightly complex, but not really quite as common. We won't worry about it too much tonight. There are modals, and this is one of the trickiest parts, that do have multiple functions. I did already mention can. And here's another variation on could, which has some future possibility meaning, but also has some past meaning, but also has some, could be, could I please use your dictionary, a request, or you could use it as a suggestion. Where should we go to eat? We could go for Chinese food. I'm sorry for talking about food if you're still a little hungry. And then you might also use it to express certainty or probability. Will we have a problem tomorrow? Well, we could. Again, you hear some questioning tone in my voice. And here could just means the same as might. It's kind of a weak possibility. But again, we have words like may that could be used for permission, as I mentioned. Sorry. But they also may also has the same meaning as might. So again, you have different words that convey the same meaning and the one word that conveys multiple meanings. So this is one of the challenges for modals. And finally, there are some pronunciation issues, as I mentioned, with can and can't. And then also, uh, when you do use modals in the past tense, you use the modal plus have plus the present participle or past participle. I'm assuming that you guys are at least familiar with the basic form as English teachers, but you also probably have heard that most native speakers tend to combine the should and the have, or the could and the have, and they say, shoulda, I should have done that. I could have done this. I would have done that. I have to do this. I'm gonna do that. So it's become very, very common and really considered pretty standard these days. But it's a challenge for listening, for sure. A few other challenges for teaching modals. I found, and I continue to find, many of my favorite textbooks do tend to teach multiple modals in one unit. Sometimes you get 2 units of modals, but each unit might have 6, 8, 10 different kinds of modals. Because there's so many, the textbooks often have these big charts, and these might not present enough context for the students to really get the meaning. So you want to, try to break that up and focus a little bit more on maybe one type of modal, like modals for advice or modals for certainty. But I'm going to repeat some of these later in my conclusion, and you'll see when we look at the exercises momentarily. You can use modals to broaden the context for vocabulary learners. There are so many basic social customs, modeled with modals, which makes them very useful for cross-cultural communication, social emotional learning. And they're also very important in academic English as a way of expressing degrees of certainty. Finally, I'd like to suggest that you could look for good visuals to show a spectrum of low to high certainty in things like modals of probability, or sorry, you can use, again, weak to strong urgency in modals of advice. I have kind of a crude version of this here where the top one is actually relative value of quantification and adverse. What I really want to show you is the star system, which I used quite a lot on the whiteboard where I could put the modals on. I can give them 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 stars, just as I've done up here. Or you can also use an arrow to show how you start with the weaker, might, may, could be, then should be is stronger probability, must be is almost 100% probability. And the same now for giving advice. Somebody could go to the doctor. You're feeling sick, you could go to the doctor. It's a very, very soft kind of suggestion. You should go to the doctor, stronger. You had better go to the doctor. Here's another one that often gets combined. You'd better. And then people rarely say the you'd. So it comes out, you better go to the doctor. But this is stronger and implies that if you don't go, you might have some serious trouble. And then you must go to the doctor means, yeah, you've got a serious problem here and should see someone quickly. Okay, a few activities for lower level learners. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to stop this one and pick out a different one. This is from one of my favorite grammar series. Uh, it's by a woman named Betty Azar, and in the United States, it's known as the Red Book, the Black Book, and the Blue Book for her basic grammar, understanding and using English grammar. It's a series that I've seen in bookstores all over the world, so you might have seen it. But here is from the Red Book, which is the basic grammar for beginning learners. And I forgot to mention, I think, that when you talk about the basic categories of modals, ability or tendency, this tends to be relatively simple and is often used at the lower levels. This is an entry point modal. In this case, can or can't. And then when you get into social interaction, you're talking about more intermediate and advanced exercises, which we'll look at. And then when you get into the critical thinking of predicting, making inferences, uh, discussing certainty, the certainty of a statement, then you're getting into more advanced levels here. But here's a very simple exercise where students take turns making sentences with a bird can sing, a horse can't sing. So here you have examples. You'll notice quite a few animal examples in some of these lower level activities. Here's another one. And I have a variation on this coming up in just a minute. I can or I can't. I can speak Chinese or I can't speak Chinese. Then you can do a kind of a game. You don't have to call a game, but you can put your students in small groups and have them evaluate. These are all about animals. So again, I think they're assuming some younger learners here in this exercise. Some birds can't fly. Well, this is true. There are a few. Elephants can jump. I don't know about that, but I don't think so. I think we saw an elephant walking down the street 2 weeks ago in our webinar on using photographs for critical thinking. And then they shift into a listening exercise, again with can or can't. I used to sometimes put the words can and can't on the whiteboard, and I would just repeat them. I'd put A over can, B over can't, and I'd each time say can, and students shout A, can't, B, can, A. It's tricky, but they would always end up laughing. So these are a few common lower level exercises. Now I'm going to share a different screen here. And these next few, and well, you know what, before I go on, let me ask you, are there any other lower level activities that you might share? Activities for modals. Anything similar to what we just looked at? Bingo. You can adapt bingo to many things, and I even have a bingo suggestion coming up for you. Matching, yes, good. Yeah, these are what we call tried and true, meaning we all do them and we know they're effective, a good way to involve beginning learners. Yep, true and false, very good. Okay, let me show you. Oh, here's another one. Yeah, pictures. Creating a simple, yeah, two false sentences and one true one. Very good. Yes, creating pictures and use creating a story using modals. Excellent. Finding synonyms. Very good. Yep, describing pictures. And again, when you're describing pictures, yes, the elephant might be lost. The people might be scared. So again, you're showing an ability to think about others. That is a kind of critical thinking in itself, but also you're saying, well, I don't know for sure. Yes, completing sentences, good. The dove can fly. The pupa should stand up. Very good. The cow can fly. Yeah, they shouldn't stand up. Excellent. Yep, missing words. We call these yeah, fill in the blank or close exercise, matching. Excellent. Got it. So a lot of great ideas here. All right, now I'm going to show you, tag questions, good. I'm going to show you three more what I call prototype exercises for practicing modals. And let me know if you've used these before. I have a feeling so if you have. Yeah, here comes more responses coming in, word and picture show. Excellent. And as we go, is there any critical thinking involved here? Let's see. So uh, here's one called guessing by abilities. Now, this could be what Sanam calls a word and picture show. So here, this is a kind of guessing game. So the teacher, or you could choose a student and let a student be the leader. But let's say whoever the leader is describes an object or an animal or a person with sentences using modals of ability. And the students have to guess what this object, animal, or person is. For example, you say koala bear, a type of small, cute little bear that lives in Australia. I think it's the part of the logo for Qantas is the Australian airline. So you focus here on can or can't. And again, the teacher says it can climb trees. You can't buy one at a store. So far, I don't think anybody could guess. But then you might say it can eat eucalyptus leaves. Somebody might know it's a koala bear. But you go on like that until students guess. So this is what I mean by giving more context to a vocabulary exercise. Now you're adding in the abilities. All right. Let me know if you've done this before. I think there's a good chance you have. If not, I hope you'll try it. It was one of the first exercises I ever do, and I still teach it to graduate students here. Now, here's another very common one I know. It's called the real title is Find Someone Who, and you can adapt it to different targets, grammar targets. I've added the word can here because I want to focus on modals of ability. So you give each student a worksheet and it has a list of maybe 10 abilities or possibilities, like find someone who can play a musical instrument or find someone who can play a sport. And then you have students get up out of their desks and wander around the room, ask as many people as they have time for. And here you have to teach them the question form. Can you play a musical instrument? Can you play a sport? And then they write down the name of anyone who answers yes. And you can play it in a grid, just like bingo. So you could have them fill in the squares until they get a straight line, vertical or horizontal. And yes, I see. I use guessing by abilities. Who can play a violin? Very good. Yeah, and that's a good point. You could be more specific than play a musical instrument. In my mind, I thought, well, maybe I we should ask who can play. Can you play the guitar, or can you find someone who can play the piano or play the violin, as you've suggested. But then I thought, well, I don't know how many young people play musical instruments today. They seem a little bit more interested in doing things online. So maybe it's enough to say, can you play a musical instrument? I don't know. But you could be more specific. Yes, I see several of you have used this. And yep, I've used Find Someone Who, and it's great for speaking. Yeah. So any musical instruments, okay, I see some agreement there. Perhaps the same with sport. You could ask, can you play tennis? Can you play football? Okay, a little more specific. Okay, and one more. This is the desert island survival. Again, you can call it a game, but generally I found, believe it or not, some students don't want to play games. They're serious students, so you don't tell them it's a game, but you make it just a little bit competitive, and hopefully that motivates them. Nothing too serious. We don't want anybody to feel stressed by competition, just to be joyful if possible and make things a little more engaging. So here you give a group of students, you divide the class into groups and give each one a list of 10 to maybe 15 objects. They've all been in a shipwreck together and they're stranded on a desert island. For a lower level class, you can present these objects in pictures so that they can really look at them. And then the group must find uses for this equipment. So, example, we can use the spoon for cooking. We can use the bucket for water. So again, keep it simple, assuming these are low to intermediate, and I think you'll get a lot of conversation out of this. My experience has been that students enjoy imagining this scenario. It's been very popular in one form or another on American television for quite some time. There's a show called Survivor. But yeah, again, is there any critical thinking involved in these exercises, would you say? Any critical thinking in guessing by abilities? Is there any critical thinking there?
Yes, of course. Like, the desert island survival, this is
Mhm.
something which requires critical thinking, because, like, they need to, again, they need to negotiate because this is a group work. They need to discuss
Yeah.
it. They need just, to find that, like, which one, yeah, amongst these objects, which one, like, is more important for them or is more useful for them. So this kind of, like, analyzing, discussing, collaborating, communicating, and also just, finding, and agreeing, because this is something like, as a group work, they should agree.
You're so right. So this involves a lot of social communication and critical thinking. It's as Zumrat says in the chat, it's about problem solving. Thank you, Nasiba, for that answer. You're so right. I think there's a lot of critical thinking in the desert island game about what will be important, imagining, anticipating, problem solving, social negotiating. I would say even this little elementary exercise, guessing by abilities, has some critical thinking. Well, if it can climb trees, it can't be a dog. So they're able to narrow down the possibilities just a little bit. Thank you. I think, yeah, teamwork, collaboration, good for what we call social emotional learning, helping students be more aware of others and themselves. Thank you. That was got some great responses there. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is show you how maybe you've been given a textbook that it could be just fine, but you want to create some slightly more engaging activities, or just you want to have something different to do once in a while. And I'm really promoting the idea that artificial intelligence can help you here. And I know you guys are aware of it because I myself attended an excellent webinar that your group sponsored. Oh, I think it was about a month ago in late January about using AI and in the classroom. So let me show you, just give you some ideas if you haven't done this already and are interested in doing this. When you make your prompt, identify your class. You could specify their L1 there, but it's not necessary, I found. And you could I usually just use beginning, intermediate, or advanced for my level. I'll show you the prompt that I'm going to use. You could identify the field. That's a that's a possibility. You could, but you should identify the specific language topic. I think actually you must identify the specific language topic. In this case, we're going to use modals for advice or suggestions. Tell AI to include a variety of activities, reading, writing, listening, speaking. If you want to, though, maybe you're just teaching a class in reading, you could have it generate a short piece of reading, not too long, but tell it to populate the reading with a lot of modals. So again, you could have variety or you could focus on one skill area. I generally am thinking we need variety, especially in the lower level classes. Ask AI to include pair work, group work, or what I call solo group class. That's my usual. Very typical for me is to first ask students to think for themselves. Then they share it as a group. Then we share it as a class. And then ask AI to include some critical thinking and something that enhances social emotional learning, and ask AI to suggest a little homework and maybe a follow-up quiz. Okay, so what do I come up with? I'm going to submit this prompt, create a 45-minute lesson plan for intermediate level English language learners. Topic is modals for giving advice and making suggestions. Include an introductory exercises that focuses on form. I included this because I tried it once and I didn't say that, and it didn't have any exercises at all on the form for modals. Not too hard, but again, a necessary first step. Sorry about that. And then number two, the variety of activities. Number three, the communicative pair work, group work, solo, group share. And number four, something with critical thinking or social emotional learning, and suggest some homework and add a short follow-up quiz. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm going to put this prompt into my AI generator here. And here's the prompt. I'm sorry, I know you can't see that yet. Okay. Okay, now you should be able to see my GPT page. And I know that you may not have access to this particular AI chat GPT, but I've also done this with Perplexity, which I think you probably have access to. You could try it with DeepSeek. They all work the same way. I got very similar responses from my chat university chat GPT and Perplexity. So you can do it with whichever one you have access to. But here's the exact same prompt I just read for you, and I just want to show you how long it takes and what it comes out with. So let's try sending this. It's actually taking a long time. I'm wondering if I might have to. Oh, here it comes. That was kind of slow for me. All right, now we're gonna it's coming up kind of fast, so we'll review it together and see how it looks. But so far, it's giving an introductory set of exercises. Here's your fill in the blank that one of you mentioned before. I see, yeah, Nasiba says she uses Gemini for AI. Very good, thank you. Okay. Val looks like it concludes the lesson plan, integrates grammar, critical thinking, social emotional learning, covers all four language skills, encourages meaningful communication, and builds confidence in using modals for advice and suggestions. Let's see, let's go back and look at it together. We'll look at it part by part. We're almost running out of time, but I think we'll have enough time to take a look. And here they're going to specifically focus on should, ought to, had better, or could. Learning objectives. Okay, and let's look at the lesson plan itself. So, yes, you write the following on the board. You explain their meanings. This makes it sound kind of simple, but it's not very simple. Again, I would say show them something visual here with the 2 stars or 4 stars or the arrow up. And here again, I I would assume that your regular textbook will have some good example sentences of how to do the form. Here's the modal and the base form of the verb. Tricky modals are the ones that are 2 words or like ought to or had better. Here's another had better, and then it could. So you could write a few example sentences or maybe use your regular textbook and a fill in the blank. I would say, and please give me your reactions as you see it. Okay, I see some of you are using Chat GPT mostly. My initial reaction is, again, we would need to add more here, and we probably won't have time for that tonight, but this is what I would do. You're going to have to add and adapt each thing to your particular teaching situation. Now, for reading and listening practice, this is very, very common. I've done it many times myself in almost every American newspaper or many, many online sources. People write to someone. There used to be a woman in the United States. Her name was Abby. and with the newspaper article every day, Dear Abby, and they would ask Abby for advice. Today, there's actually a guy, Ask Eric, and you ask Eric for advice. But here you have students read a short advice column. Now here, what are you going to want AI to do? Probably write that column for you unless you have found one. Again, make sure it's not too long, but that hopefully gives you opportunities for modals. So students read, they underline any modals used for advice. You could read it aloud or play an audio version, and then have some follow-up discussions. Do you agree with the advice? Anybody have, yes, oh, excellent. Any comment on this so far? I do think that's an excellent exercise. Do I think it takes 10 minutes? No way. I find this is one of the most common errors beginning teachers make, and I think AI makes the same mistake. I saw the same thing when I used Perplexity to create this lesson plan. It thinks you can do things in 10 minutes. This 10-minute exercise could by itself take 30 to 45 minutes if it's working well. If it's working well and you're getting a lot of useful target practice, we say, with modals and conversation and critical thinking, don't stop it and try to, it could take you 10 minutes just to explain it. So that's a little shortcoming here. For speaking and writing, you divide students into pairs or groups and have them discuss a problem. Again, here you just need to be careful about students being too vulnerable, sharing. They probably shouldn't share anything that they're truly upset about, but they might be nervous about a test or nervous about a job of some sort if they're old enough. Yes, very good, Nasiba. If your students are mixed ability, everything's going to take even longer. So this I think is assuming near fluency already in terms of time. So again, I don't see how you could really do this in 7 minutes, and I don't know how might want to do it more than one time with students in different pairs so that they can get more opportunities. You might do that 3 times. So that could easily take 30 minutes if each time takes 10 minutes. Or you could make it a little faster if you want to. Sometimes I do in class use a little timer so that I give students a little bit of urgency. Anyway, yes, the teacher can customize the lesson plan. That's what you're going to end up doing. So here you have some problem solving. It'll take, you provide them with a real life scenario. Again, will take more than 8 minutes. A wrap up. This is an interesting one because they call it an advice chain. One student gives a piece of advice and passes it on to the next student, and they continue around the class. Have some interesting answers. AI did provide a little homework, write a short paragraph, use these modals. Important to include that they have to use at least 3 pieces of advice using modals, and then a follow-up quiz, which is pretty standard, fill in the blank or rewrite the sentences. It's a good idea to exercise regularly. You should exercise regularly, or everyone should exercise regularly. You should talk to your teacher about the problem. You should wear sunscreen on sunny days. So you get the idea there. And finally, they said some extensions here. You can discuss cultural differences in giving advice. This is quite interesting. And I've seen various exercises on this. And you can ask people, when you go into somebody's house, should you take your shoes off? Must you take your shoes off? Could you take your shoes off? Again, it's you have a lot of possibilities there. And then you can reflect for social emotional learning on how giving and receiving advice can help build stronger relationships. So again, we would go back and add a few things to it. But there's a lot here to work with, and you wouldn't have to accept the whole lesson plan. You could just take one exercise from it and give that a try. Do it in your own words with your own suggestions for particular items, or ask AI for more. Okay, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and finish up here. I just wanted to show you that. I'm actually been enjoying AI, I must admit. Okay, so we just saw AI create the plan. Anything that you saw here that really looked good, or did you think there was anything missing? What would you add to that AI lesson? Any suggestions for improving the AI product? Okay, again, I'll just say I think you got to work with the timing. And I think the exercises on presenting the form are still kind of limited. You might want to expand and work on that. Yeah, that's a nice suggestions. More real life examples would be good. Yeah, but it is as Nasiba says, it's a quick lesson plan. Yeah, situations with the teacher or with group mates. Very good. And I think there are plenty of opportunities for critical thinking in some of those exercises, but I would consider adding just a little bit more. And perhaps there's slightly more advanced exercises and may involve reading or listening to more sophisticated texts. Yeah, culturally relevant content. That's an excellent suggestion. And again, you're going to have to add that. Maybe I could have put that into the prompt. Say, give me something for students in Tajikistan, and it'd be interesting to see what comes out there. Okay, and we'll say this. You could prompt AI to add more. Last question here, a kind of reflection. What is the teacher's role when using AI to create lesson plans or classroom activities? What do you do? What does AI actually do? I see here, yes, AI broadens our ideas. Okay. The teacher facilitates learning. Yes, a facilitator for sure. Yes. I think both that's the teacher's role is to make the lesson more engaging. Now, how do you do that? First, you have to, AI doesn't do anything without you asking it to. And you're the asker, or I would say the prompter. You're the planner. So that's why making your prompt is very important. And that's why I demonstrated that to you. And then AI is the producer. It generates the product. But then you are the product evaluator or the assessor. And you'll decide what really works for you or not. And when it doesn't, you, the teacher, are the adapter. So yes, AI can create new ideas, highlights what doesn't come to our minds at once. Yes, very good. Yeah, you could come up with a lot of ideas if you had all the time you need, but most of us are so busy, it's hard to find time just to brainstorm sometimes. But yeah, AI will create new ideas, and we have to consider our energy and spark with our energy, definitely. And here's one that says, we should not depend on AI. Okay, don't depend on it. use it as a tool when you need it. But sure, feel free to create everything on your own. Perhaps that is more satisfying in some way. I know I have colleagues who feel the same. They don't want to become dependent on AI. So sure, do it yourself as long as you have time and energy to do that, but use the care strategy. Choose, adapt, reject, and expand. Very good. Okay, so just to conclude here, again, a little bit of a repeat, but teaching modals can broaden the context. Just, you're teaching animals and you say, I'm sorry, you're teaching animals and you say, yes, a bird can fly, a horse can't sing. Uh, there are basic social customs expressed in most, so they're so valuable for social emotional learning and cross-cultural communication. They're very important in academic English for claiming degrees of certainty. Is this a fact or is this an opinion? Is this somebody guessing? Modals will tell you the writer's use of modals, the speaker's use of modals will tell you how certain they are about things. And then when you're the speaker or you're the writer, you'll be careful to use modals in the same way. But in general, modals offer a variety of opportunities at all levels to practice conversation and critical thinking. I've put a few other resources on the last page here. This is that grammar book I took a few exercises from. The grammar book, now in its fourth edition, is a book that we use for training grammar teachers here at the university. And then this is also a good book, Grammar Practice Activities. Lastly, I wanted to show you this website, American English, sponsored by the U.S. State Department. They have a teacher's corner, and they have, if you go to this link right here, you'll go to the teacher's corner for modals, and there are numerous examples of exercises you can use there. I think we're okay here. So I don't know how much time we have left. It looks like maybe just a minute or two. I'm sorry about that. By the way,
Yeah.
here's a recommendation for Oh, Nasiba, is that you? Azar is my favorite. Yeah, mine too. And Essential Grammar and Use, also another one of my favorite books. I used it for years. Really good. So thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts and comments tonight. And I don't know if we have time for any more questions. Nasiba, I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this was really yeah, informative, interesting, and also insightful because so many, yeah, just we started with something like, uh lots, yes, with low order thinking, and then we went to higher order thinking, like, how to use it. This was really great. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank
dear
you.
all, yeah, let us open the floor, quick floor for questions and answers. Like, if you have any questions, just, yeah, please let us know. You can type in the chat box, or you can just, yeah, write it in the comment box on Facebook. So far, so good. So please go ahead. And Dr. Rubin, I have a question. So, um, how to teach models? Because, like, sometimes in your classroom you can find, yes, again, students who are coming from different backgrounds and from different countries. So what would be the best recommendation in this assessment? Because again, just, as mentioned, for students with lower abilities, like, teaching models, again, can be facilitated with L1. Yeah, and what would be the best strategy in this case? Just to immerse them quickly in the yeah, English language learning environment.
Yeah, I would agree that if for the lowest levels, sometimes using L1 is the most efficient way to get them started. Now, as you're suggesting, if you have more of a mixed class, as I often if when I'm teaching students at the university or even in adult education programs, yeah, we have students from all over the world here. Much of the world. I'm bragging now, but we have a nice climate in Southern California, and we have Disneyland, and people like to come here to study. We also have some great universities. But yeah, when I have a class that's so mixed, then the L1 is not helpful. So I think the basic strategy is you want to focus on one type of modal at a time, not try to throw too many at them all at once. Like I said, not give them these big charts with all the modals and different meanings of modals, but just do it one at a time. If there are students who speak the same language, maybe they can help each other in the L1 if necessary. But I think most languages have something comparable in meaning, even if the form is not the same. So that's what you look for. And again, take it slowly. Again, if you have a mixed ability class, you can't go always toward the low end. You can't go always toward the high end. You have to just be watching your students constantly, watching their eyes for understanding, watching to see if they're completing the task. The lower ones will take more time, the higher ones will be finished quickly. I always would go for the middle. I would let a few people finish and wait, but not wait too long. So again, I would say take it slowly, focus on one modal at a time. Perhaps focus on only present tense at first, then later add other tenses like, I should have gone, I should have been there. That's a little trickier. But yeah, I think that's a great question. And I say use L1 where you can, but if you don't have to, don't.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so dear audience, if there are any last minute questions, just let us know, and we'll be happy to address the question to our speaker. Okay, yeah, everybody's thanking you, Dr.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
Dr. Rubin,
everybody.
like, yeah, so many thanks. Thank you once again. I guess like, yeah, no questions. And once again, thank you so much, Dr. Rubin,
Thank you.
for a really interesting webinar. And we'll make sure, yes, to share the materials from today's webinar via EWB website soon. And of course, we will be happy to see you more, Dr. Rubin. So please
Thank
let
you
us
so much,
know.
Jesse.
Yeah,
Thank you
it
so
was a
much for the
pleasure.
opportunity. Thank
Yeah,
you. I
it was
really
a pleasure
appreciate it.
to host you today. Thank you so much, dear all, for your active engagement. We understand this is Ramadan and this is iftar time, but anyway,
Yeah.
appreciation for staying and also just for learning together with our speaker. And have a great evening, dear all. And Dr. Rubin, have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll stay in touch. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Thank you, Nasiba. Thank you,
Thank you.
Zero, for your help too. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.